There was a pair of eyes in the middle that suddenly lit up. "You're here to burn this world, not the Demon King, are you? Turn back." Currently, under the sunlight, many people were gathered, looking at the same spot, including Deus, Alex, and Zeke. It turned out to be a gold-bordered board with the title mission board at the top. Numerous pieces of paper with different missions were attached, along with gold seals and red ribbons. Zeke looked at the owner and wondered why we were looking at the quest board. Deus. Looking back at the sunlight that made Deus's silver hair shine, he answered excitedly, "Because you have officially become a hero now, so you also have to do official missions." Zeke understands. Yes, a warrior wears it. Armored head with a dark horse hairstyle, fierce face with patterns drawn around the left eye and right eye. This dark peak holds a mission sheet in his hand. He speaks loudly to deal with the reason and his followers who are trying to awaken. He's in the cemetery in the southeast of the A-level mission, but I, Aladdin, will accept this mission. All three of them heard it and looked at Zeke, who couldn't help but burst out into a loud laugh. Ha, Deus PH, continue. Look at the mission board. Honestly, what's there to brag about? We should choose a C-rank mission. Zeke chuckled awkwardly. I guess so, huh? There were mission sheets torn apart. Each page had a stamp showing the mission level ABC along with other symbols like a plus sign. Zeke read some missions written on it and brought 3 wolf spider egg sacs from the wild to stamp. Extinguish the eternal fire in the western snowy mountain except for the 7 children's souls that appeared every night behind the mountain. He noticed a stamped paper of Class C containing the mission to defeat the mermaid who haunted and caused harm, the Deus. Mermaid villagers appeared curious. He asked what a mermaid was. Alex turned around and answered that it was a tribe of ferocious half-human, half-fish 2 meters tall. They often appeared on the coast on days when the sun was not too strong and hunted fishing villages. Catch little fish. Deus quickly reached out and yanked the paper pinned on the board, which he excitedly grasped tightly. The fist holding the task was raised to the sky and shouted loudly, "Then prepare the swimming goggles and go play in the water." Zeke followed. Laughing a little shyly, flowered beach shirt, floaty shorts, swimming goggles and snorkel, Deus was all dressed up and brought along his slippers. He laughed out loud. "Come here, those fish, let's play next to him." Zeke's face was speechless with a smile. Alex was expressionless and not too surprised by this sudden decision. Realizing something in the distance, he turned his eyes to look at a town at his feet. The hill right next to the sea is burning fiercely. Deus surprised. "I thought it was a sea of water, but a sea of fire. If there are fish, there must be water." Alex suddenly spoke up with a good idea. This made both Deus and Zeke look over curiously. In the village, a young man with a terrified expression held a burning torch, lighting a pile of wood in front of him, making the fire blaze fiercely. Then he raised the torch and constantly backed away. Not only him, but the girls were also doing this. The children screamed and ran around wildly, surrounded by fire. Another person also lit a fire, standing before the huge, raging inferno. He groaned, "Ugh, ugh." He was sweating profusely, still holding the torch in his hand. He turned back and shouted loudly that the mermaids were afraid of fire and wouldn't come near here quickly. "Light more fire." A village girl holding a torch in her hand, running briskly in the middle of the still blazing fire. Her calling was extremely urgent. "Hurry up, light more fire, move quickly." Suddenly, water from nowhere dripped onto her face. Panic engulfed the girl. "What is it?" She was startled and raised her eyes to see a huge, hideous monster with glowing red eyes staring at the girl with a mouth full of sharp teeth, a trident in one hand, and a huge body covered in scars. On the second floor of a house next to the road, water from the body dripped down into a stream. The girl's eyes widened. Her face no longer had a drop of blood. Sweat poured out. Her covered hands raised to her head and she screamed in fear. So quickly that before she could realize anything, the monster had disappeared from the previous location. The huge beast leaped down at an incredible speed, the trident in its hand aimed straight at where the girl was standing. It was about to impale her. Luckily, a man was faster, rushing forward and hugging the girl to avoid the lightning-fast attack. Rocks and earth shattered from the trident's impact, flying everywhere. After narrowly escaping, the two people fell and crashed to the ground, with small pieces of rock scattered everywhere. The two people panicked because they couldn't stand up right away, and the beast was gradually walking with heavy, wet steps. There wasn't just one, there was an army of huge, ferocious beasts emitting strange sounds. No matter how big the fire behind them was, they had already arrived. The mermaids saw their prey and squawked at the other two, still maintaining a motionless position since falling. The man's teeth were clenched, sweating profusely, his eyes were wide open in alertness, but he could only groan helplessly. A desperate scream echoed amidst the remnants of the fire, spreading everywhere. When will the hero arrive? Alex explains that contrary to what people think, mermaids do not weaken when exposed to fire, so those who fight against them often die in the fire. Deus asked again how strong they were and Alex replied, "I'm not sure." Why the question? Deus wondered. "I don't have enough data to calculate," Alex answered. Looking towards the town engulfed in flames, he sighed. A Class C mission, not bad. Deus assessed. "I bet Zeke can't handle this alone," a statement that made Wretch slightly surprised. Alex asked, "Should we go take a look?" Deus turned to Zeke and said, "No, you go." Zeke was utterly astonished by his master's words. Sweat dripped down his face. Flustered and disbelieving, he raised both hands towards Deus, asking for clarification. "Me, alone, against them." Deus nonchalantly explained, "Of course, you're the only hero here." Alex also looked at Zeke, who seemed still stunned. Deus added, "You've probably forgotten, but I'm just a merchant, and Alex is just a butler." Zeke hesitated, full of doubt. He tried to force a smile, but then wondered, "Can I really handle them?" "Didn't I apologize for calling you a forced rank the first day we met?" Deus affirmed. Zeke seemed moved and could only agree. "Yes," Deus continued. "Wasn't it you who said you were a forced rank, not someone else?" Zeke, still surprised, couldn't refute anything. Deus continued to manipulate Zeke psychologically. "You are the hero, the leader of this team. You are the one who fought, and even though Alex received all the praise, you haven't forgotten you're a hero, right?" This question calmed Zeke down. He seemed to regain some confidence. Pointing at Zeke, Deus declared, "From today, you are officially a Class C hero recognized by the nation." The master's words seemed to awaken Zeke. "And now, before you are ordinary, vulnerable people, about to die, waiting for a hero to appear," Deus continued. Zeke gradually realized what he had to do. Deus looked down at him. "This is your mission. They're waiting for you. Go, go, save them." Hero Zeke Van Holivik. Zeke intently absorbed every word, transforming them into his own resolve. His previously open mouth finally uttered a sound. His confidence and righteous spirit had returned. Under the setting sun, Zeke, with burning will, said, "You're right. I was a fool, a failure, a defective product. I was a coward, but you reminded me." His face flushed with excitement. He shouted, "I, Zeke Van Holivik, died yesterday and was reborn as a Class C hero. I swear on my family's honor that I will defeat them and save everyone." The flame of righteousness blazed around him. He ran towards the small town. Deus cheered him on. "All right, go, hero Zeke." Running and cheering joyfully, Deus pointed towards Zeke, continuously encouraging him. "You are foolish, a fool, but now it's different. Go fight." Alex seemed to be thinking something. He noticed Deus's sinister smile. "This is like he's about to do something bad," Deus thought. "I was hoping to see more joyful children underwater, but the sea of fire is rather troublesome. I wonder if this trick will work." Luckily, Zeke's a fool. Alex understood Deus's intentions. "Ah, the Demon King, those unchanging habits of his are wonderful." Both men tightly pursed their lips, suppressing their gleeful smiles. Rushed steps in the sea of fire. Embers flew everywhere. A boy wearing a beret, his face dirty, his body covered in sweat, panted as he ran, glancing back. Unfortunately, he tripped over a small stone. He fell, his face hitting the ground. His hat flew off. Two people running with him were terrified when they saw him fall and turned back. The girl asked if he was all right. The boy clutched his foot, crying out in pain. The man urged him to get up and hurry. A trident suddenly flew from somewhere, piercing the man. He fell, blood spurting. The girl and boy beside him were terrified by the gruesome sight. The trident pierced his chest and back. He crashed to the ground with a thud and a pained scream. The man lay there, looking at his bleeding wound in horror, groaning in agony. The girl turned, her eyes filled with desperate flames, sweat pouring down her face, her mouth opened involuntarily, but she couldn't scream. A mermaid was very close, and he bared his fangs and raised a sharp knife to slash down. A deadly scene seemed to be about to happen. The beast suddenly stopped, it gnashed its teeth, roared, and glanced behind it with bright eyes. Suddenly, Zeke appeared. He raised the doomslage before him and shouted. In the sea of fire that engulfed the town, Zeke shielded the girl and boy, who were huddled together on the ground. Purple rays emitted from his shield, pushing the merman into the air. He crashed into the roof of a nearby house, sending debris flying. Zeke jumped out from somewhere. He shouted and raised the doomslage to block. The eye in the center of the shield glowed with purple magic. The shield unleashed a powerful force, sending the monster flying onto the opposite roof. Its large body left a huge hole in the roof. In return, Zeke successfully protected the girl and boy. They narrowly escaped death. Both of them stared ahead, their mouths agape, unable to close them. Because before them was Zeke's small but strong back, he had made a badass appearance and was now facing 3 aggressive aquatic monsters alone. They stared at Zeke, waiting to devour him. Behind Zeke, a voice called out, "Sir, hero." Zeke turned around and looked. At this moment. Everyone could see his bright eyes, eyes that only true heroes possess. The 2 words hero make. Zeke calmed down, he gritted his teeth, cleared his throat, and said, "I am Zeke Van Holivik. I came from the Hero Management Office to save you, so don't worry." Zeke formally introduced himself, no longer shy as before. The surrounding people smiled joyfully, hope flaring in their hearts. They cried out, "A hero has arrived, thank God." Suddenly, an old woman hesitantly interrupted their joy, clasping her hands. She said worriedly, but in her eyes remained a look of worry. She looked at Zeke and asked, "You look so young, where are your teammates? Is there a bigger hero, or a mage? Or not?" A short man wearing glasses also stepped forward, pointing at Zeke. He questioned, You don't even have a sword or armor." Pressed by the 2, Zeke sweated, not knowing how to respond. The short man wearing glasses wasn't grateful for his help at all. Instead, he continued to point at Zeke. "We waited for a hero to save us, and this is all we get. The hero who came to save us is just a kid." He suddenly stopped speaking and only made a sound, his eyes red and watery from smoke, wide open as he looked at young Zeke. The naive Zeke, still flustered and scratching his head because of being considered young and incompetent, said, "I'm sorry, I just arrived." He didn't notice a merman slowly approaching from behind him, staring intently at Zeke and baring sharp teeth. The short man grimaced and shouted, "Behind you." Only then did Zeke, bewildered, turn around. What? Everyone was as terrified as the short man, seeing something pass like a gust of wind behind Zeke. Just as he turned, Zeke received a punch from the monster. Luckily, he managed to raise his shield in time. The eye glowed with a purple lightning bolt. Zeke braced himself and grabbed the porch, gritted his teeth, but blood still shot out from the mosquito net. Zeke silently cried out in pain. After that, he was shot backwards and soared in the air. His flight trajectory also drew a thin line of smoke and he fell down. He suddenly fell next to the man who was hit by the trident. He also looked at him in panic, just waiting for that. The mermaids immediately bounced their feet and rushed towards them, each one fiercely holding onto the trident that was still in place. In front of his chest, he shouted to everyone around him to run quickly, as if his words just now were not enough. Enlightened, he opened his mouth wide to take a breath and then screamed with all his life and everyone ran away. Only then did the villagers turn around and run away, screaming behind the uncle's back. Zeke and the man were still lying on the ground looking at the monsters rushing at them like a storm just as the man was about to bend down and hold the bull trident. As he walked, Zeke next to him stood up on his hands and ran towards the mermaids as fast as the wind. The man saw this and shouted in panic, "What are you doing?" Zeke, clutching his shield, charged alone into the horde of monsters. He arrogantly left them with the words, "I'm buying time, so run." The fishmen watched greedily, waiting for him to approach. The man gaped at Zeke's bravery and water flowed into his eyes, causing him to only be able to see with one eye and two. The attack was so fast that only the afterimage could be seen passing through Zeke's embrace. Surely the shield passed through each mermaid's name. His eyes lit up even when he wasn't paying attention. The mermaid who jumped onto Zeke just stopped to look for a moment, and then the mermaid jumped. He stabbed Zeke with the tip of the knife, forcing him to brace himself to defend himself with the Enslaving shield. The stab caused Zeke to was shot back far away from the ground, causing slight smoke from friction. Zeke winced in pain, spitting out a mouthful of fresh blood. His eyes widened as he struggled to breathe. But just a second later, Zeke had to be alert again. He widened his eyes and looked up at the sky. Another mermaid didn't give him time to recover. He rushed forward and stabbed the trident straight into the place where Zeke was lying. The stab caused the rock to break. Toss up. Zeke, by inertia, tumbled to another spot. He only managed to cry out in pain before rolling from one place to another, his appearance utterly disheveled. But from that momentum, Zeke managed to get back on his feet. He knelt on one knee, drawing his shield back, preparing to defend against the next attack. The mermaid then threw the trident forward without making a single precise move. Rushed towards Zeke's position, but he quickly dodged to the side with his left foot just a few centimeters away from the trident. Regaining his fighting spirit, he held his shield in front and lunged forward, his eyes radiating a golden light. The fishmen, seeing this, charged together, surrounding Zeke, their eyes glowing red with bloodlust. Zeke showed no fear. He used his shield to send a fishman flying backward. Zeke's eyes blazed, reflecting his unwavering determination as he glared at his enemy. With another turn, Zeke successfully sent away another mermaid. Purple light emitted from the shield was extremely powerful. Suddenly, a wet hand reached out and grabbed Zeke's ankle, causing him to stop. Then, Zeke. He looked back in panic, but it was too late. He was pulled away by a strong force, his face pale. The sea monster held Zeke like a toy and lifted it up. Then without mercy he threw the little Zeke to the ground like he was swatting a fly, causing the ground below to crack and explode. He could only groan helplessly. Zeke braced himself and gritted his teeth to fight the pain of blood pouring out of his nose and mouth. Zeke could only hug and hold the Enslaving shield tightly. Right after that, Zeke was lifted up again and jerked around, causing new tears and nose to flow and fly away according to the monster's inertia. Taking pleasure in torturing him, it held Zeke's feet and gave him a thrilling ride from high above to the ground. It enjoyed hitting Zeke from front to back until the ground was dented into two front and back membranes. Not willing to give up, he quickly found an opportunity and swung his shield hard to slash the monster's arm. It hurt, so he immediately let Zeke fall to the ground. His arm was slashed, but it didn't do anything. Instead, it threw a kick at him. Luckily, Zeke promptly rolled to the side to avoid it. He rolled a few times before springing back up, his gaze unwavering on the enemy before him. Everything around him was in ruins, but Zeke's spirit remained unbroken. He rose to his feet, gathering momentum, then swung his shield with all his might and roared. The fishmen continued to stare at Zeke. As fast as lightning, Zeke moved and rushed towards the mermaid, his eyes flashing gold. Those eyes flashed with dazzling golden lightning, showing his strong will along with that. I don't know how powerful the attack was. Zeke swung his shield and slashed hard at the sea monster closest to him, knocking it down. Zeke glanced at it from behind his shield, his eyes flashing with a determined golden light afterward. He bravely rushed forward. The SL-Lagan shield radiated power and shot towards the group of mermaids, one of which was thrown straight to the roof of the house, the others still staring at him. Suddenly, a guy took the opportunity to attack and prepared to sneak attack from behind. Zeke, he was still looking forward without knowing anything, and the monster succeeded. It punched Zeke's fragile back with a huge punch when he fell back in pain and bled. Immediately splashed from his mouth, his bright yellow eyes were still surprised by being secretly attacked. The mermaid didn't slow down. He immediately grabbed his penis and pushed it down his eyes. He flashed with cruel pleasure. One hand grabbed his head. He leaned over, made a momentum-gaining motion, and threw him hard forward. Zeke crashed straight into a burning house where he flew through, creating a hole in the house, smoke coming out of the surrounding people. Looking anxiously at this battle scene, everyone had an indescribable look of panic on their faces. The man, the girl, and the boy all had their mouths open. Far away on a small green hill, Deus and Alex were leisurely watching the sunset and observing the battle from afar as if they were on vacation rather than working. Mission Alex looked at the burning village. He wondered what to say. The song was blurred. Deus put his hands behind his head and sat shaking his legs like a rich man, or his eyes wearing dark glasses. Thinking about life, Alex hesitated for a while before asking about Zeke. Do you think he's not that bad? I mean, he's matured a bit. Deus lay silently without saying anything, hid the expression in his eyes until a moment later Deus said that absent-mindedly. A large hole gaped in the wall, billowing smoke. In front, splintered wood burned fiercely, the flames illuminating the neighborhood. Deep within the hole, dust and smoke swirled. Zeke screamed, "Ah!" Suddenly, a gust of wind erupted from the hole, moving so fast it shaped the smoke into a whirlwind. Zeke, his face bloodied, flew out clutching a shield. The shield was designed with a large purple eye in the center, surrounded by small green scales. He used it to protect himself, charging out furiously, his eyes flashing gold. Zeke roared, the unfinished words, "The warrior." As soon as he appeared, 3 fishman monsters wielding weapons charged at him. The eye on the shield unleashed a purple vortex, striking the monsters. One fell into the flames, the others glared aggressively. A powerful monster lunged from the side, punching Zeke. He quickly raised his shield to block the blow. The punch was so strong that he almost stumbled, the ground cracking around his feet. He squeezed his eyes shut, gritting his teeth and groaning. Blood streamed down his forehead. Seeing him falter, the monster became more ferocious, baring its teeth and preparing another attack. Less than 3 seconds later, the next powerful punch landed on the shield, creating a loud noise and a cloud of dust. This time, he had to use both hands to fend off the pain. Ugh! Ah! Zeke felt the monster stop attacking. Gritting his teeth, he exclaimed, "Warrior!" He pushed the shield upwards with all his might, sending the monster flying. Having defeated 1, 3 or 4 more monsters, each aggressive and armed, charged towards him. He gritted his teeth and turned to face them. 2 leapt into the air, spearing at him with their tridents, roaring. The whole village was engulfed in flames. Zeke bent and jumped high to avoid the stab it had just resisted. The hand landed safely, then another one attacked him, aiming to impale him, but Zeke nimbly dodged, escaping death by a hair's breadth. He grimaced, gritting his teeth, and groaned, his eyes still burning with a bright gold light. Dodging caused him to lose his center of gravity and fall backwards. Zeke used his shield to stick into the ground to keep his balance. The ground cracked and flew. Not long after, he quickly gained momentum and jumped up and attacked the mermaid monster in front of him with a slash right in its stomach. He had just defeated one when another appeared behind him, wielding a trident. It leaped towards Zeke, the flames raged, and the blood loss forced him to close one eye as he struggled to see. When it flew towards him, he crouched down and quickly returned to a half-sitting, half-kneeling position. Ready to fight at any time, he was so busy looking ahead that he lost concentration. When he realized, there was a monster behind him that caught him. He screamed in panic, struggling to escape the eyes of the bloodshot monster staring at him. The veins on his face also appeared and his throat let out a growl as he intended to kill him. By tightening his body, his large arms and veins bulged tightly, holding both Zeke and the shield tightly. Zeke felt it was hard to breathe, bared his teeth and groaned. He groaned and pushed his hand to give it some space. He crossed his hands and made 2 quick fists. Zeke's shield was like a blade, successfully cutting off both of the monster's arms. When he escaped, he nervously observed his surroundings. Monsters surrounded him, allowing no respite. One attacked, but he quickly leaped back, dodging the blow. As soon as he set foot on the ground, he used the momentum to jump again Zeke. He put all his strength into punching him in the back, causing him to scream in pain. Let's rest for a moment. He rushed to attack the remaining animals. They were sent flying far away from his small body. Zeke kept moving and suddenly he fell to his knees and fell to the ground, making a loud popping sound. Zeke struggled. Both hands fell to the ground and heaved a heavy sigh. It seemed like the continuous attack had exhausted all his strength. Villagers watched fearfully from afar, their weapons at the ready. A middle-aged, brown-haired man stammered, He's doing it." Sweat poured down his body and he still bowed his head and panted, not daring to lose it. Wary, he raised his face, his eyes sharply glanced around and followed his gaze. A lying monster suddenly wiggled and then it slowly stood up. He looked at it in confusion and couldn't believe it. It changed the direction of its attack from him. To the villagers, the monster roared loudly, making the villagers panic and scream and retreat from the blows. Zeke's body was unharmed. One by one, they started to stand up. They still looked at him and let out a challenge. He was still tired. Kneeling there, looking up at them without any injuries, he angrily thought that if he could land a sole attack, he could definitely end this battle, but damn it, I don't have enough strength anymore. The sun was setting, but the fire still raged, engulfing the town. It was unclear whether the flames or the sunset illuminated the village. On a nearby mountaintop, Deus, in a floral shirt and shorts, relaxed in a wooden chair, eyes closed, looking like he was on a camping trip. Beside him was Alex, his assistant. He coldly watched the town, his gaze shifting worriedly to Deus. Should we help? Resting his head on his hand, Deus calmly said, "Let it be, they're not dead yet." Alex was surprised by his response. Suddenly, he opened his eyes and said in a low voice, "Besides, the kid's fighting a dragon. He's forgotten someone's trying to kill him." After hearing Deus, Alex silently contemplated, then nodded in agreement. "You're right," he replied. At the same time, in the town, the battle was still fierce and the trident was hurled at it. Causing Zeke to fall, he hit the ground hard and rolled a few times. He was in pain and he cried heavily. The hand drum turned his head and frowned at the monster and groaned that it was still aggressive. The first time he attacked him, he grinned loudly and swung his weapon at the demon Zeke, who quickly stood up. "Use your shield to cut off its trident." The shattered trident flew from its victim. He used his shield like a knife to continuously slash towards it and was slashing this one when he discovered it behind him. Another one appeared, rushing towards Zeke and turned back. Still using his shield to destroy its weapon, this time his attack was faster and stronger than he tried. Throw a punch with all your might and say die quickly, you succeed. He cleaved the monster in front of him in two. The blow was so powerful that it slightly lifted him off the ground. Too focused on the front, he was hit by the other monster. Its sharp claws raked his back, blood spraying everywhere. He screamed in surprise. "Well, you flew a pretty far distance and then fell to the ground with a thud, your back hitting the ground hard." He put his hands behind his back, curled his legs, and shouted loudly. After shouting, he breathed heavily. Slightly opening his eyes, he saw 3 ferocious mermaid monsters in front of him. Baring his teeth, he rushed towards Zeke, panicking and trying to get up, but he couldn't catch them. Together they threw punches at him. At this moment, he could only use his shield to curl up to defend, even though he had to endure his father's punch. Hiding under the shield longingly thinking, "Please save me." You are surrounded by many monsters, human monsters, but the purple eye on the shield is still intact. Zeke so tired you. They brutally attacked him and he bent down to hide from the pain and cried out. Not far away, the villagers trembled in fear when they witnessed that scene. Everyone stood still, their faces showing fear of the woman with long hair. The short bronze-brown girl opened her eyes wide in fear and said suddenly the boy she was hugging. In her heart, she escaped and ran to Zeke. She was startled and looked at him when she realized that the boy was rushing into danger. She reached out her hand and nervously asked, "No, Noah, where are you going?" The man whose hand was stabbed by the trident also panicked and said, "Danger, it's dangerous to stop." The boy stopped and stomped on the ground. He turned around strongly and said that the brave warrior was also in danger, but although he was afraid, he continued to say that he helped us in times of danger, so now we have to help others, right? After saying that, he continued to run towards the temple. To everyone's surprise, after hearing those words, everyone was surprised. They didn't think a child like him could have such deep thoughts. Everyone felt empowered. Stand up together and shout for everyone to help the hero.